and welcome to Building Futures, career conversations with leading lights across the built environment. Today, I'm really excited to be speaking to Julie White, who is Managing Director of Drill and Soaring and also Chair of Build UK. Hello, Julie.
Hello.
So I gave you two of the titles that you have. If you actually go on LinkedIn and look at Julie, you'll realise that she actually has about 5 to 20 different titles. I've picked two. So for anyone who doesn't know your bio like I do, can you just give a summary of your roles at the moment?
Yes. Well, I'm Managing Director of Drill and Soaring, which is a concrete cutting and controlled demolition company. So we'll do something as simple as drilling a hole for a plumber's pipe, to cutting windows and door openings for shop fronts, to escalator pits for supermarkets, to actually cutting a motorway bridge and a nuclear power station down. So it's very diverse. Everybody on the construction site needs a hole.
I love it.
Yes.
So you Build also Chair of Build UK. So tell me more about Build UK.
Well, Build UK was actually started 8 years ago. We had the National Society of Specialist Contractors, which is a specialist trades, and we had the main contractors. We actually joined as one voice and started Build UK. So I was very lucky to be on that from the beginning. So what we do now is we actually see what we need in our industry. We actually talk from the tier ones down to even the very smallest of specialist contractors, and we understand what we do need, what we want for our own industry, and then go to government with one voice and ask them for best policy, best laws, best levies. So that's what we do. So we are the voice of the construction industry.
So I love it, and also how powerful a message it is that as a woman you're leading, Build UK. So ultimately, as we know, actually women only are 13% of the whole of construction and property, but only 1% on site. Yeah. So how did you then end up in this industry?
Well, Drill was always in my life. It was my father's business. He started it the year I was born. And so that's 57 years ago. So, it was always in my life, Drill and construction. And the best times of my life was when I was younger and we had drillers and operators sleeping on the floor. My mum always had a massive pot of casserole going on. She was happy my dad was back. I would come down in the middle of the night and my dad would be fixing a motor on the kitchen table and I'd be helping him. So Drill was always in my life, always, and that feel of construction was always there. So I went to school, as we all did, and I was very good at coursework, very good. I was head girl, I was head of the netball team, I was whatever I could excel in, and I did. But I always found exams really hard. Yeah. I am very nervous. It's took me a lot of years to get over that nervousness, and I still have it. And I do have to monitor it and talk myself round most days. So I went to school, and when it came to exams, I just fell apart. And in my years, they didn't really understand why. So I came out of school thinking I was very stupid because I got a GCSE in RE, religious education, so I could be a nun right now, and didn't really know what I wanted to do. But firstly, I knew I couldn't go straight into Drill. I didn't want to be Drill's daughter, and I didn't want to be the next. I was only there because of the boss. So I ended up going to construction because I knew it. I loved the crack of it. I loved the feel of it, what we achieve every day, what we build, the actual process that we do, and innovation. It's amazing. So I worked in site huts, and then after about a year and a half, I decided I was going to go and see what the big bad world was. So I ended up flying to America, and after I actually drove a whole circuit of the United States, and after that I found ocean yacht racing. So I actually bullshitted my way onto a yacht that was doing a race from LA to Hawaii. But after 3 days, they realised I couldn't cook, and I still can't cook. So the owner came down and said, "Look, Julie, we know you can't cook," and there was food everywhere, all over the galley. And I was like, "No, I can. They're like, "Look, we've spoken to the crew, and we know you can't. So we've decided there's two things. We're either going to throw you overboard, but that would be murder and you're on the crew list, or we're all going to take it in turns and you'll have to learn to sail. And I said, can we go for option 2, please? So we did. So I actually went on board, up on deck, and these were the best sailors. They were oldish, they were older, but they were the best Olympic sailors, the best America's Cup sailors, best round the world yacht racers. So I learned so much, and we won the race. So that was fantastic. Amazing. And from that, as they always say, it's who you know, not what you know. I managed to get another job, until I did 3 round the world yacht races. I managed to get my own syndicate and actually become skipper, captain. And from those days, I really realised I was running a business. I was really running a business. So I had the right staff, so I had the right crew on board. I picked the right jobs. We had a Minister of Interior that made sure we had enough water and enough food. We had a navigator, which is a bit like a tactician and a financial person. We had shore crew. So I was running a business and thoroughly enjoyed it. After that, I went on to a super yachts and crewed super yachts again, turned a yacht round from actually making no money in such a bad state, got the right crew. So I used to come back because we were based in the south of France. I used to come back very often. And instead of going to see Auntie Jean and Auntie Edna, I'd actually go into Deidre and help my dad. Right. Filing, making tea, any kind of jobs he could give me until I went back to the super yacht. And then from that, one time, this happened for a few years, to be honest. And after 1 year, I was downstairs with my dad looking at a new piece of machine, and it was a diamond grinder that actually could grind away black adhesive, bitumen for shop-free refits, dust-free, and do it while all the shop fitting was going around it, because the floor was the biggest problem. Yes. Because everyone wants to stand on it, and you're trying to dig it up and put a new one down. So my dad said, that's very nice, but we don't do that, put that in the corner. So again, it's who you know, not what you know. So I rang my dad or his managers in his office, because we're nationwide, and said, have you heard about this black bitumen adhesive? Do you get asked for it? And then they were like, no, not really. I have seen it. And then about 2 or 3 weeks later, one of the managers called me and said, I've been asked about it. So I said, right, great. So I came home with the help of my father and the manager. We managed to get a price structure because it was brand new technology that come into the construction industry, and I got the job. And we did it. I did it with an apprentice he gave me from his side of the work, and we ground the floor, and it was a success. From that company, they gave us another job, another job, another job. And I gave up sailing because I was going to start my own company, and it was called Superfloor. We did floor preparation. I built that up to a good £2 million turnover. I had my own work, my own operators, and we brought in all technologies for the construction industry. So I used to say I was a stripper and grinder of the construction industry. So, yeah, so I actually totally enjoyed that. But from that, I learned another massive ruling, another thing that I realised, because that company became me. People bought off me because of my knowledge. People knew that if I said that floor would be finished by Tuesday, it was finished. So it took my life over. I didn't have a date for 6 years. I was single, I was just living the company, and it was tiring. Yeah. So I remember the only afternoon I'd had off for years, I actually was with my dad. He is my best friend. He is. And we were on the 19th hole. We'd played golf. I hadn't really spoke all the way around because I was so stressed. And on the 19th hole, we were having a couple of pints, and he said, have you ever thought about taking Deidre over? And I looked at him and said, no, Dad, not with what I've got. I couldn't. He said, well, you are a woman, and I've never even thought about it, but you're the only person in the family that's gone into construction. I said, oh, no, Dad, no, Dad. So we had a few more pints. And I said, well, you've got so much of the family in that company. I tell you what, don't want you to give it me. I don't want to be Deidre and daughter. I'll buy it from you. And we're very competitive, me and my dad. And he said, you can't buy me, you're not big enough. And I said, you will never be able to get 100% shareholding from the family, so you can't do it either. And we shook hands, and we did. It took 3 years. I always say I got the money first. He always said he got the 100% shareholding. But he would always come back 1 year later, I've got 75%. No, Dad. 100% or nothing, no deal. 85% after 2 years. And it took 3 years to do it. So with my first company, I managed to go to the bank and raise enough money to actually buy him and the family out. So that's how I got into Deidre.
That is such, there's so much to unpick there. It's so fantastic. I guess what my first question is that what has that taught you, those experiences? Because actually in some ways the yacht and also learning about the flooring and the specialist drill, it all speaks to you being in a very learning mindset.
Oh, yes,
and you're very, you're very acknowledging of people that have taught you. Yes. And given you, kind of giving you all that information, really taught you, but also you've been willing to learn. How has that played out in terms of you now and your passions? Does that make you very passionate about giving opportunities to other people to learn?
Definitely.
Right.
For me, I always found that I talk to everyone. I'm terrible. I talk for everyone. I talk to anyone. It is, again, acknowledging people and taking from their strengths. And for me, it was also that I knew that I couldn't, after Superfloor, which is my first company, I couldn't run a company on my own. I've got to have the right people around me. And that's so important. I always say, get the right people. That's a bit like the yacht. Get the right people on board and get the wrong people off board.
Yes.
So that it is, and it's about the people around you, their knowledge, their understanding. And every day I'm learning. And if I don't understand, I always say when I go to a solicitor or an accountant, talk to me like I'm a 15-year-old girl and I'm a sum reader. Because all your wording, it doesn't make sense. But if you tell me in layman's terms, I'll know where it fits into the company. Yeah. I'll know whether we need it or not.
Yes.
So don't boggle me with your words.
Because often we need to be in communication. It's not just how they want to communicate, it's how we understand what they need to tell us and how it can be summarised when you're not someone who's a specialist. And that's how you make things more accessible for people, isn't it?
That's right.
And so how has it then, for example, changed how you feel about things like apprenticeships? Yeah. Because in some ways, you got an apprenticeship on the yacht, even though we didn't actually call it.
And I started my own company without an apprenticeship and not knowing it.
So how has that made you feel about how do we get more people into the construction industry? Has that then given you ideas and passion towards how we could achieve that?
I think the passion has gone back. Again, everything goes back to Deidre. The passion was, again, the apprenticeships was inside Deidre and inside my father.
Right.
Because you don't get a diamond driller and sawer off the shelf, and there's no one goes to school to be one. So you have to bring people in and they have to start an apprenticeship. And my father, who's, again, very, very close to, very passionate about it too. So I've grown up with it. Plus, he actually went out before the CITB was actually was organised or brought into the industry. He went out and rallied the government himself with another group of his competitors. So he started the Drilling and Sawing Association over 30 odd years ago. He went to government and said, we're a trade. I know you talk about electricians, you talk about bricklayers, but we're a trade. Yes. We want to be known as a trade. We want our own standards. And he did, and he rallied around. He got the right people in to run the association, which made standards for an apprentice. We actually got the government to give us an apprenticeship scheme, and that's how it came. So, and also, Deidre has always flourished on apprentices, always. And for me, it's the right way. It's absolutely the right way. And to be honest, for Deidre, it's the only way.
And so it's because it's your lived experience, you're clearly so passionate about it. How have you gone about kind of convincing other people that this is the right way? Like how do you articulate that when you're speaking to people who maybe haven't had that lived experience, maybe did go to university and go a different way? How you do that?
Well, firstly, I do not understand why Great Britain, I mean, this has gone back many moons ago, has devalued apprentices. Why? If I speak to I've got friends in diamond drilling all around the world, and you speak to Germany, you speak to Sweden, you speak to Finland and Norway, they've been pushed, their governments have pushed apprentices through. It's acknowledged as an amazing thing to get, to be acknowledged and took on by a company and be an apprentice. It's an honour, where we have devalued it. And the only way into anywhere in life or into industry is through a degree or university. It's wrong, because you've been invested in. I mean, that company is taking you and putting all their faith and that into them. And usually these people have got great values you see in them, and you teach them. You pay them while they're doing it, because we know an apprentice it costs us for the first 2 years, if not more. Yeah. And you showing people the best technology, you're showing them, you're actually investing in them. So it's an amazing, apprenticeships shouldn't be devalued, and you're not stupid if you go into apprenticeship.
Absolutely. And I think it plays to, we all learn in different ways. And I think there's so many good things about apprenticeships. I think also from a social mobility point of view, not everyone can afford to go to university. No. Some people's parents can't afford to support them, or it's a lot of debt for a young person to take on. Whereas apprenticeships allows people to learn in a very practical way. If they want to continue doing qualifications or be sponsored by their employer, that helps. But I think that we underestimate the social mobility side of it.
And I also know that those apprentices will go on, because they've been through that learning and they know how valued they are. They're usually the ones that take the next step up to supervise that, because they want it, they're hungry for it. Then they're the ones that want to take the MVQ 5 or 6. They're coming into management now. They're pushing me. I want to be a manager. I want to be in the office. I want to go out and price. So for me, apprenticeships, it sticks with you. It's actually, you're hungry to learn.
Do you know how many times I've heard this story? And that's what's so wonderful about apprenticeships, is I've heard so many times that it tuned into the way that person wanted to learn, which was more practical rather than academic. Yeah. It also then, because they kept working away all the way through, they felt they never had that sort of burden of worrying about anything. And it almost unleashes them to move forward in their careers. And at the end of the day, we do want more people from any background to feel that construction, is a place for them, because of that skills gap that we have, and the fact there are not enough people who have who have come into the industry over the years, and we need everyone to feel like they're very welcome. So back to you and your career then. So if you were, you said that you had, when you look at it now, actually, it was academia that wasn't shaped for you. It was almost now, hopefully there's a bit more compassion about people that prefer to do coursework. I certainly did. So for you, you're obviously now, the story ends really well, because here you are, super, super important. People are coming to you to ask your advice, to get you involved with projects. So we all know this is the fairy tale ending. But if you were to give that 15, 16-year-old self who was nervous in exams, what advice would you give about careers? Or what advice would you now give to another 15, 16-year-old who thinks exams are not for me, this is it? What advice would you give to them about their careers? For
them, see what you're passionate about. I was always passionate about construction and D-drill. I always knew I was, even though I wouldn't admit it. So see where your passion is, and actually know what you want, because it doesn't matter about the exams. You can actually get to where you want. It might take a different path. It may be in not the first job you ever want to take to get into that direction, but you can do it. And also ask. Keep asking, keep questioning. And to be honest, construction can opened up so many jobs. You know, people think of all construction workers as, you know, men usually with shovels in the ground and a yellow jacket and a hard hat. It isn't. There's so much. You can be you can be a bid writer, you can be, you know, a solicitor that specialises in construction. You can be whatever you want to be that supports construction, because 1 in 10 of us work in construction. I mean, people don't realise that either. And also, from what I'm also doing now with the Prime Minister and the stuff I'm doing with the government, is they know £1 spent in construction, it gives £3 back to the greatest economy. So we should be. There is a massive sector, a massive career to be had in construction, whichever way it is.
I mean, economically it's so important. But I tell you what I love for me is that I can drive around places across the UK and know that the people that I have helped to get a job have worked on massive projects.
Yes.
But not just that, they've helped build people's homes, the schools that our children attend, the hospitals where we sometimes need to go to, getting the physical road from A to B, someone has built that. And to me, that's why I've stayed in the industry for so long, because it's really fulfilling. Because we actually build stuff that you can see.
Yes.
So I'm like, I'm
and the things you can't see, the sewage works,
yes, absolutely,
the underground, everything.
The you know, the things that protect from, for example, the rivers overflowing or our sea defence, because we're an island nation. All those things have been built. It's getting that message across, isn't it? So when you talk to people about your career, so you've had this amazing, so you went off and did the yachts, you bought your dad out in the
boards and actually helping the government with construction and small businesses. So for me, I just feel that you feel it, you know where you're going. You know, you can have a plan, but it may never turn out, or something else will turn up. So if you've got a plan, you zigzag backwards and forwards, but you always know the end game. And for me, even from a small child, I knew I wanted to be out there rallying for skills and apprentices inside construction, because it was always been my passion, always.
So it sounds to me like when you're making those big decisions, you're clearly so astute, so commercial, it runs through your veins. But what I'm hearing is in those big decisions, you also just listen to your gut, that intuition.
Definitely. People take too much about, you know, if it feels right, do it. Absolutely. Go in that direction. And if you've got a plan, if you know your end game or you think you do, you may zigzag off it, but one day you will come back, because that's where you want to be.
And so do you ever sit there and go, this is the next goal I want to do? Or does it just sort of organically happen that you sort of see something and then you go, oh, I quite like that, I'm going to go that direction?
I think a bit of both. I think a bit of both. I do love doing a lot of media stuff. Again, I can rally apprentices and get out and talk as a woman in construction. So for good or bad, that's always good coming from a female, I'm sorry to say.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sitting with the Prime Minister on the Small Business Council. I'm actually talking to him about barriers, about skills, what we can do to push the industry on. So for me, it's kind of, it has flowed. But I've always had a good mind where to go. And then helping out in an association like Build UK, took me 8 years to get to chair. I stuck in there and now I'm got in a position now I can rally the one thing I love.
It's so interesting that goal setting that you have, but at the same time, I really hear the long game with you. You know, it was almost like when you're saying about your childhood, it was almost like you knew you were kind of going and getting the experience you needed because you kind of knew the end game that you had. And I think that resilience and that long game, sometimes you have to sort of allow things to go off in a little cul-de-sac to get the skills you need, and it all sort of fits together in the end, which I absolutely love.
And as you get older, you know, things do change. I want a life. I mean, I don't want to go back to those when I started my first company and I had 6 years of no boyfriend, no nothing, and no life. That's not what I want. Now I want a life. I like getting away. I windsurf, I kite surf, I travel a lot. I even got a husband. And that was never in the plan, but I've changed. You know, I am not that 16-year-old girl that came out of that Catholic school with a GCSE in RE. You know, one of my proudest moments, they asked me to do a speech to the Warwickshire and Coventry best businesses in the world. Jaguar Land Rover, Rolls-Royce were there. There was so many amazing companies. And I remember looking at this address thinking, I know that address. And I remember, you know, taking the sat-nav and came outside my school. It's a different school now. And I went on and I told this story to these amazing business people inside my school hall, and walking out there thinking, yeah, I'm not stupid. I wish I knew that when I was that 16-year-old.
Absolutely. And that your skill set is different, but also allowing yourself to evolve. And that what has happened to you doesn't necessarily mean it's an indication of what's going to happen in the future. I know whenever I'm talking to my little son and he says to me, I can't do this, I always say to him, you can't do it yet.
Yes.
Doesn't mean you'll never be able to do it. It just means, and it's accepting that you will change and you will evolve, and that's okay. And what you want in your career is going to change over time, and that's fine. And accept that. And there will be ebbs and there'll be flows and there'll be slight cul-de-sacs, but in the end, as long as you're passionate about what you like, and I do think, as you said, I think relying on your gut in the end.
Oh, definitely.
When you have to make those final big decisions.
We're very good at that as women. Yes. Very good. And I don't think a lot of women back that off because they think, oh, no, I can't. It's not, you know, there is no plan. There isn't. It is correct a lot of the times. Follow it. And also, you know, people always ask me, you know, what is, have you got a mentor? Have you got, and be yourself. I mean, I like a laugh, let me tell you. So I could be on the business council with the Prime Minister and have a chat with him about, you know, what you're doing the weekend. And I like that. And I think that also makes you very personal, especially with Build UK. I talk to a lot of people inside that association, and they know me personally from just being talkative, being there.
But it's also, I also think that it's a badge of distinction when you are yourself. Because often I know people ask me, well, how should I be in this environment? And I'm like, actually be yourself because it's less tiring. But also being you is a badge of distinction. They'll remember you because you are authentic and you are yourself.
And role models are great, but they're not you. Absolutely no way.
Absolutely love that. That seems like a good time for us to bring this to a close. I could talk to you all day. Like,
there's a lot more to that story of Deidre, let me tell you.
Writing down. Maybe I have to bring you back, I have to say. I think just to summarise at the end, just touching on that last bit about networking, actually. I think often when we do network, we often not ignore, but people don't necessarily see actually what we give back, what we get back. Yes, we might be volunteering on a council or whatever it might be, and people are like, oh, aren't they great? They're giving up their time. Be like, no, I'm getting a lot from this too. I'm getting absolutely the network. You're getting experience you might not get otherwise.
And also, if you get offered, I mean, again, let's go back to I'm worried. I'm so nervous. But I mean, I've been on Question Time. I mean, on the panel. I've been on the One Show. I've been, you know, on every radio show you could ever think about giving my opinion. So beat that. Whatever is your goat that you carry around every day, try and just whip it off every now and then and do something that makes you feel fantastic when you've done it.
Oh, God, I love it. This is just wonderful. Thank you so much, Julie, for giving it your time. It is, like I said, the power of that networking, the power of just keeping on your path, even if you go like down a slight cul-de-sac, but actually knowing you're gaining loads of experience that actually come back to you. And also that passion you have for playing what you were given forward and giving other people those apprenticeship chances. And I hope that anyone listening to this who has maybe children who are thinking about what they want to do will really support all people around them, young people, to see this as an option. It doesn't have to be a degree. There can be other ways if that person flourishes in that environment. And I personally feel so empowered by that story of you going back to the same school and being like, this is who I am, look where I've got to. And I know how much work you do with the government and what you're doing, and you are genuine. You really believe it and you're doing it. And I'm so inspired by that. So thank you so much for coming and talk to us. And thank you to you for listening. You can subscribe to further podcasts on YouTube or Spotify.